And really, thank you guys for participating in this pilot project. Start a little bit about what AHEC is. So, an area health education center. We are federally, state, and locally funded organizations. There are 7 centers in the state of Missouri. We have 3 program offices, which are A.T. Stills University, MU, and SLU. There are over 250, almost 300 AHECs nationwide. These students have signed up for a collaborative case competition. Again, this is a pilot project for us. We're doing everything online. The case comes to us as a gift from A.T. Stills University. We're going to talk about that a little bit more throughout this presentation. We really want to kind of have you guys have an orientation. We're going to record it, put it on YouTube, and send it out to the team members that weren't able to make it today, so you have an idea of what you're going to be doing. We're going to start first by talking about what interprofessional education is. And I know we have students of like different levels. Would one of you guys want to explain to me what IPE is?
Basically, we're working with other professions. We're working on the same patient with other professions.
Right on, and there's a lot to be said about that. So, the IPEC definition: people from 2 or more disciplines learning with, from, and about each other to improve collaboration and the quality of care. There are 4 competencies related to like interprofessional education. We're going to dive into each one just a little bit. There are values and ethics, teams and teamwork, roles and responsibility, and communication. So when we think about values and ethics, we're talking about respecting the patient's autonomy, their privacy, their cultures. It's also the same for the team members we work with. So spending some time to learn maybe about other people's cultures and respecting them, understanding their values. You can also look at professional disciplines. So there are lots of places, and it's a great place to start with team members where the pharmacists and physicians and nurses, their codes of ethics actually overlap because of and putting really the patient first, doing no harm. These things run through all health professions. Teams and teamwork. So here we're looking at is the work distribution equitable? Is everybody being heard? How does the team function? What can teams do to improve? I really like that GIF. I think it really points out what people can do when they work together. So we'll go into roles and responsibilities. It's not only having understanding of what your role is on the healthcare team, but having an understanding of what other people's roles and responsibilities are. It's also one of the largest like spots for conflict on a team, or on a healthcare team, and that has a lot to do with how just general human behavior and rightfully so, some ownership of our work and what that looks like. So when we collaborate, I can think of examples where there are certain things licensed clinical social workers can do. There are assessments that they can do that are just the same as physicians or other disciplines. When I think about pharmacists in particular, their skill set is quite broad. And here at the hospital that hosts our AHEC, they have an award for the greatest catch. So for catching like a medical error, and the walls of the clinical pharmacy are lined with them. They're really knowledgeable. They bring all kinds of information about different medications, dosages, those kinds of things. Also, patient education, when you think about that, they're very equipped to be able to explain to a patient what a medication is for and how it's supposed to be used. You can also think about your care managers and your other types of social workers, and those even come from different camps. So you'll see care managers that either come from a social work discipline, or you see some that come from nursing. And having an understanding of that and how that works really affects overall patient care. Communication, that's a big one. We communicate a number of different ways, not just face-to-face. And it's also communicating with patients. So not only communicating across team members, but with the patient in front of us. We can look at using communication tools. One that's popular from nursing was actually adapted from the Navy. It's called SBAR, and SBAR stands for Situation, Background, Assessment, and Recommendation. So it's a format for being able to pass information from one health professional to another. So can somebody give me some examples of what might be patient-centered care? We're looking at the definition from the Institute of Medicine right there in front of us. Like, or answer this question for me. Who is the most important person on the healthcare team?
The patient.
Patient.
The patient, right. And so, and some of the traditional models of healthcare really were more like paternalistic or coaching. And this one actually really, patient-centered care really integrates the patient into their own care plan. And especially for the project that you guys are about to undertake, there's tons of information there that can help you guys design a care plan for Mr. Williams that is patient-centered. All right, we got somebody typing in. I can, yes. And we can, when I send out the, can you see the PowerPoint? Everybody can see it, Jennifer.
Oh, okay.
I think. Can everybody see the PowerPoint?
I can see the PowerPoint.
All right. That's cool. It's a pilot, and this is going on YouTube, so hello world, right? It's okay. It's the first time we've ever done anything like this. I'm being the one recording. It's not going to see, except for when I have this open, it's not really going to show everybody. And so that's okay. But moving forward, so patient-centered care is providing care that's respectful of and responsive to an individual patient's preferences, needs, and values. And when we look at those IPE core competencies, it hits all of those. That the idea is that the patient values actually guide all clinical decisions, right? Going on to the next graphic. So I like this graphic. It talks about some of the different things that we really should focus on and think about when we talk about patient-centered care. The patient and families are always included in their decisions. Their viewpoints are respected and values. Physical comfort and emotional well-being are top priorities. So Jennifer and I hopped on here and we were kind of reviewing, going over what we were going to talk with you guys about. And I shared with her this example. And this is a real life example where a tech who was taking a lady for like preparing her for a sonogram. And that's where they have the wand and gel on the belly. I'm not a clinician. Try to use some plain language. But to help protect her clothes, he tucked the blanket in really tight underneath and behind her, and didn't explain to the patient what he was doing like beforehand. In the long run, it comes to be that it made the woman feel really uncomfortable because he was reaching under her, like around her waist and backside, and she didn't really understand why. In retrospect, the technician really felt, he felt horrible. It was never his intention. He was really trying to protect her clothes. So some of those things we should really, should just kind of be taken into account when dealing like people's physical comfort and emotional well-being, including people's family into the care setting. And that's not always possible in all care settings. I know the rule is, at least in the emergency department here, you could only have one family member back there at the time. And so people can come from the waiting room and pop out. But again, that's emergency care. That's not necessarily on a hospital floor. So talk about your task. You guys will be making a care plan for Mr. Williams. Remember to keep the patient's interest first. Also consider like patient safety and quality improvement. A good place to check for information on that, just briefly, is if you're not familiar with the Institute for Healthcare Improvement. They have tons of great stuff out there. What you're going to be doing is developing a video presentation of a team-based care plan to meet the needs of the individual, Mr. Williams and his family. The video only needs to be 7 and 10 minutes in length. we'll take a look at the website where you're going to find the case. It's open now if you haven't been there to see it. Does anybody have any questions so far?
No questions yet.
All right. Jennifer, do you have anything you want to add?
Not right now, no.
All right. So do you all have the link to the actual case? And so Mr. Williams from Poplar Bluff, Missouri, it goes through actually what his home looks like, some of the things in his area, what kind of transportation he has. This really, here is some about his hospital stay. Here's some words from his wife, Eartha, and some of his own thoughts about what his last couple days in the hospital were like. You'll also find information about his hospital care. So from the athletic trainer, from the health educator, social work, and so on. There's also information to help you guys as you develop your presentation. We really wanted to have some facilitators for each team. Wasn't able to score those for you guys, but if you have any questions, you can definitely email Jennifer and I, and if we don't have an answer, we can find somebody to answer those questions for you. There are other resources on the webpage for you guys. And then there's also a place you guys can post blogs. Now, this is for really general information. It is a competition, right? So don't necessarily want to share all your secrets. But it's really open for everybody to see, and you can ask general questions, and we'll do our best to respond in within a day. So we also have the rubric here, and we'll just touch briefly on each one of those points so you really know what the competition, how it's going to be judged. Okay, so this has been sent out to everybody. So a large portion of the grade of the judging will be done on have you placed the interest of the patient and their family at the center of the healthcare team. You describe the composition of the plan. Talk about roles and responsibilities and expertise of the people involved. How you ensure effective communication, right, between the team members and also with the patient. And they also give examples of what an excellent grade would look like. Describe any plans you have for quality improvement and patient safety. For your presentation skills, you try to be as clear as precise. All the team members are in the video or somehow have some part of the narrative, so everybody's speaking a little bit. A relevant, effective introduction and summary. Use professional language. So, and at the same time, temper that with like health literacy. So use common language. And this is the newest part, I think, for a competition like this, especially here in Missouri. When it comes to the video, it's not really shaky. You can use animation or music or other video elements. It's unique and original, has an emotional appeal for the audience. The narration is clear and edited. And then there will also be an individual reflection. And we're gonna send you a sheet to fill out. So there'll be like a questionnaire. And that will all eventually, after the videos are made, they'll be uploaded into, we're using Canvas as a judging platform. So the judges will have access to a closed Canvas classroom to be able to make their decisions. And we'll talk more about the judges in a little bit. We have about a dozen. Any questions about the rubric?
No, not right now.
All right.
Nope.
Awesome. So when you building your team, so make sure as soon as possible to schedule yourself some online meeting. Define roles and responsibilities. So what does that look like? Is somebody going to do research? Somebody going to head up however it is you guys want to frame that, right? As a group, make those decisions together. There are some communication tools that I think we're just I think that we may be familiar with that you guys can use to communicate with each other. So using WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, email. Make sure to name your team, right? Come up with something together, like really own it. It's really, we're doing something, I think, for especially for younger generations, might be a closer grab than some. I know when we were pitching this to the university, that how this works is really interesting and new in a lot of ways. And so really have a chance to help build something for the first time with this being a pilot project that really you can make it your own. And so keep it within like the parameters of the rubric, but have a lot of fun with it as you do it. So as you build your case, make sure you learn about the Williams. Communication tools for your presentations, and might want to think for using like brief and debrief checklists for your meetings. Look at discharge templates and care plan templates. There's tons of them out there on the internet. Make sure you review the hospital care that's built into that Weebly website, and then you build your care plan. So then you build your video. That's what comes up next. So remember, each person should participate in the video. I suggest maybe a storyboard or writing out a plan. So who's going to talk first, who's going to talk second, who's going to talk third. You can, like we are now, recording, right? You can use some kind of like really video conferencing software and do a meeting like this together to build your video, right? You could use a PowerPoint if you wanted and move the slides along, and each person would talk in one part. Or you could do it asynchronously. That might take a little more work on the back end where somebody would have to edit or stitch those together. But there's lots of open source software out there for that, or if anybody's familiar, or I mean, really there's things to look into. You can use animation if you want. And you can make that as simple as like in the PowerPoint, how your slides moves or other things, or if you know how to actually animate video, that's great. I went looking online for some free video tools, and some of what I found was like Skype, Apache Open Meetings, Jitsi. Zoom has a free service. The meetings are kind of short. I'm not 100% sure if you can record. I know you can kind of do the same thing with YouTube and Twitch if you know how. What's really important on the back end, your video should be submitted and emailed. And actually, not even emailed. There's probably going to be too big, right? So you should probably stick it in a Google Drive and then send me the link, because then I'm going to put it into our YouTube channel and keep it, there's a term for it, but keep it hidden except for the judges and unshared the judges in Canvas until after the competition's over and the judging's been finished. Okay, and so now to who the judges actually are. So we actually have a resident at SLU. So we have physicians on the team. We have a number of nurses ranging from RNs to master level nurse educators. We have people representing physical therapy, laboratory science, respiratory therapy. We also actually have a chaplain and an attorney who signed up to be a judge, which is really interesting. When we think about healthcare, sometimes people encounter situations where something may be happening and it's a matter of, say, like a health-related social need. An example from talk from like Health Begins, which is an organization out of California. The president has a TED talk about upstream medicine, and he points out when he was a physician having a patient who had chronic allergies, and the chronic allergies were actually caused by mold in their house. Now, if you have a landlord that isn't like fixing those kinds of problems, right, then maybe we do need to incorporate that kind of discipline into a person's care plan. And so I'm thinking that comes to the end of our orientation. Here's some of those